I was supposed to get married in 2 weeks, but after hearing my fiancé talking to someone on the phone, I decided to cancel the wedding. My fiancée, Sarah 28F, and I, 34M, have been in a relationship for approximately 6 years, with 1 year of engagement. Our wedding is set to take place in just 2 weeks, but I recently witnessed something that has left me feeling uneasy and questioning the decision to marry her. This incident occurred as we were both at home, taking a rare opportunity to relax. While I was working on a project in the backyard, Sarah was in the kitchen preparing dinner and talking on speakerphone. I overheard her conversing with my brother-in-law, Marty, who was inquiring about his wife, Evelyn. Sarah informed him that Evelyn had just left our house and should be home within the next half hour. This information struck me as odd for several reasons. Firstly, Evelyn had not been at our house that day. The last time we saw her was the previous day when she helped Sarah with some wedding decorations. Secondly, I found it strange that Sarah was texting Evelyn despite Marty's claim that she was not responding to his messages. Lastly, I couldn't comprehend why Sarah would mislead Marty about Evelyn's whereabouts unless she was either aware of her location and lying, or currently communicating with her to hasten her return home. After contemplating these events for several hours, I felt compelled to confront Sarah about this perplexing situation. However, I doubted that she would provide a genuine explanation if she was indeed being deceitful. My unease continued to grow, and eventually, I succumbed to my curiosity and checked Sarah's phone while she was asleep. Although this action was facilitated by the fact that we know each other's PINs, I recognized that it was an invasion of privacy. Regrettably, my suspicions were confirmed when I accessed Sarah's phone. My soon-to-be wife, Sarah, has been assisting her sister Evelyn in covering up an affair with a co-worker for the past 6 months. I discovered numerous texts between them discussing the affair, the co-worker, intimate details, and embarrassing information about my brother-in-law. I took screenshots of the entire thread and now find myself typing this out on Reddit to avoid the overwhelming urge to scream. I am in a difficult situation. I cannot marry Sarah after discovering her involvement in this affair. There is no reasonable excuse she could offer me for her actions, which have also victimized her husband and their 2-year-old daughter. However, we have already invested a significant amount of money into our upcoming wedding, and there is no way to recover it. I feel like a fool for not realizing the extent of her involvement earlier, and I am struggling to come to terms with this new reality. Despite everything, I still care for Sarah and want to marry her. She has always been kind and fun, and I envisioned a bright future with her. However, I can't look at her the same way after this revelation. It's like a dark mark on an otherwise beautiful picture. I am dreading the conversation that I know I need to have with her. I feel sick to my stomach and overwhelmed with conflicting emotions. Edit. Folks, there's no need to persuade me against marrying Sarah. It's clear that the wedding is canceled. Right now, I'm focused on determining my next course of action and summoning the courage to follow through. I'm under immense pressure from the expectations of others, but I refuse to succumb to it. I dread dealing with the aftermath, and I'm quite upset about being in this predicament. Edit 2. It's 5 a.m., and I have to be at work in 3 hours. I've only had a few hours of sleep. I plan to shower and head into work a bit earlier than usual to avoid Sarah and reflect on my situation. I appreciate the support of people here, and I want to express my frustration toward those who keep suggesting that I need to understand the good reason behind my soon-to-be ex-fiancé's actions. Edit 3. I arrived at work at 7 a.m. and found the office empty. I decided to address the issue head-on and called my brother, who lives in Australia. Despite the late hour, he was still awake after putting his kids to bed. It was difficult to break the news to him, knowing he had spent a considerable amount on flights for his family to visit me. However, he didn't bring up the expense and instead offered his support as an older brother. He pointed out that my job involves dealing with liars and scammers regularly, and it's understandable that I seek a place free from such concerns. This resonated with me, helping me understand my strong reaction to Sarah's deceit. My brother also suggested a great alternative. He planned to take his family to Florida for sightseeing and theme park visits, and now I can join them. Since my honeymoon plans were also in Florida, I can easily rebook everything to be closer to him and his family. I'll offer Sarah's ticket to my sister or another family member. At the moment, I'm trying to distract myself with coffee until I can reach out to Marty later in the day. Edit 4. I just finished my morning stand-up meeting, but I'm feeling jittery from drinking 2 pots of coffee since I arrived so early. As a result, I'm finding it difficult to concentrate. I believe it's crucial to inform Marty of what I know before I can make any progress on my end. Therefore, I've decided to take a sick day and drive over to his house to see if he's available. If he's not there, I'll give him a call and find out his whereabouts. Since Marty is currently on a break from teaching and Evelyn works a 9 to 5 like me, I'm optimistic that this plan will work out. Edit 5. I arrived at Marty's house just after 10 a.m. He had just put his daughter down for a nap, and we had a lengthy, candid conversation in the kitchen. Marty had been suspicious for a couple of months, suspecting that Evelyn was hiding something, with the help of Sarah and a few mutual friends. While I don't have a complete record of text messages, I did share some screenshots I saved from Sarah's phone. As a field analyst in the SCU department of a mid-sized insurer specializing in workers' compensation fraud, I offered to assist Marty to the best of my ability. Currently, I'm working from my laptop in my soon-to-be brother-in-law's kitchen, trying to salvage what I can. I've managed to rebook most of the honeymoon, although there was an issue with the ticket due to Sarah flying under her maiden name. Our carrier has strict rules about name changes, but they allowed me to cancel and rebook the ticket for my sister and her 2 children. I'm holding off on canceling the venues until after I speak with Sarah, as I don't want to alert anyone until Marty has the chance to confront Evelyn. However, I do plan to inform my family and friends this afternoon and ask them to keep it confidential. I'm currently in a rush to cancel what I can and will head to the bank shortly to open a new account and sort out my bills and payments. Regarding finances, while there may be some complications, the mortgage is in my name, and I have the higher income. Sarah contributed about $20,000 compared to my $60,000 towards the down payment, so I may need to compensate her for that and some portion of the mortgage payments. It's a challenging situation, but it could be worse. Edit 6. I will be taking a break from posting for a while. My recent post on TikTok has gained unexpected attention and has spiraled far beyond what I initially anticipated during my late-night distress. First and foremost, I want to clarify that I do not harbor any hatred towards Sarah. While I am deeply troubled by her actions and disheartened by the discovery of her two-faced nature in her interactions with others, I do not hold any animosity towards her. I am simply overwhelmed with sadness. The "I'm screwed" part of my post refers to the limited time frame I have to address the current situation. Our relationship is at a point where I cannot proceed with our planned marriage in 2 weeks. If we had more time, perhaps months or even a year to work through this, my approach might be different. However, I do not have that luxury, and I must make a decision now. Given the state of our relationship, I cannot enter into marriage, so it's simply not going to happen. There's no room for negotiation on this matter. I will provide an update later tonight on how things have unfolded today. Hopefully, it will be less distressing than I anticipate. Edit 7. It is currently 8:30 p.m., and I am composing this post from my friend Mark's house. Mark and I used to work together in the same field, and he has asked for my assistance. I am employed as a field analyst in the SU department of a sizable insurance carrier, which essentially means I work as a private detective investigating potential fraudulent workers' compensation claims. Mark approached me seeking help to identify the person Evelyn was cheating on him with. All we had to go on was a name, Jake. My initial attempt at investigation involved searching through Evelyn's LinkedIn connections, but I found nothing, which struck me as odd. Marty informed me that Evelyn was planning to go out for drinks after work and wouldn't return home until 9 or 10. It was clear to me what Marty suspected. I agreed to help him on the condition that he accompany me. I then contacted my friend Mark, explained the situation, and arranged for him to meet us later in the day. Our first stop was at Marty's parents' house, where they agreed to watch their granddaughter. While I waited in the car, Marty spoke to them. Afterward, we headed to Evelyn's workplace, a large commercial strip mall with nondescript offices and an open car park. We located Evelyn's car and used a spare set of keys to gain access. I provided Marty with a voice-activated recorder and a GPS tracker to place in the car. Once the task was completed, we parked down the street and waited for my friend Mark to join us and for Evelyn to leave her workplace. Mark arrived about 20 minutes later, joining us in the car. Approximately an hour after that, Evelyn emerged from her office with 2 friends and a tall, youthful man with sandy blonde hair. They were clearly holding hands, and I couldn't help but think that Evelyn was making things easy for me. I took a couple of pictures from the car and waited for Evelyn to leave in hers before I began to track her. Initially, I thought she might head to a hotel, but instead, she drove to a decent bar and grill in an upscale part of town and parked on the street. As she exited her car and entered the establishment, I drove past her and found my own parking spot, formulating the plan. First, we sent Mark in, as he was unknown to everyone. His primary tasks were to capture any incriminating photos of Evelyn and Jake and to serve as my alibi. Marty and I waited in the car for about 20 minutes until I received the first in a series of text messages from Mark. The images showed Evelyn and Jake engaging in public displays of affection in front of their two female colleagues. Marty's suspicions were confirmed. They were helping Evelyn conceal the affair from him. He was visibly upset and angry. One of the co-workers was married, and as a couple, they were close friends with Marty and Evelyn, each having toddlers around the same age. I asked Marty if this was enough for him, but he expressed a strong desire to know who the man was. Although I suggested we could find out later, he was practically pleading with me at this point, so I instructed him to wait. I then informed Mark that I was entering the bar myself before proceeding inside. As I walk into the bar, my eyes immediately land on Evelyn and her friends, laughing and enjoying drinks at a round table near the front window. I pause for a moment, feign surprise, and then call out to Evelyn. "Evelyn, what are you doing here?" Her reaction is one of shock, and the mood around her group becomes tense. Evelyn introduces me as her sister's fiancé and announces that we are getting married in 2 weeks. Congratulations pour in from everyone, and I graciously thank them before extending my hand to a blonde guy, introducing myself with my full name. To my surprise, he reciprocates with his own full name, revealing that he is not named Jake. I proceed to introduce myself to the rest of the group and then inform Evelyn that I am there to meet a coworker. After waving to Mark, I excuse myself. Approaching Mark, I share the guy's name, and we both pull out our phones to investigate. It doesn't take long for us to uncover his social media profiles and a few court case judgments against him. We discover that Jake is actually his middle name, which sheds light on the situation. Relieved that Evelyn isn't cheating on Marty with multiple coworkers, I text Marty the guy's name and decide to push my luck by asking him to wait a few more minutes. I continue to play the role of a babysitter at the bar, knowing that my presence is visibly disrupting Evelyn and her friend's evening. After about 10 minutes, I instruct Marty to text Evelyn that he's spending the night at his parents' house with their daughter. Not long after, I observe Evelyn showing her phone to Jake, prompting the group to pack up. As they prepare to leave, Evelyn approaches me, bids me good night, and extends an invitation for Sarah and me to join them for dinner over the weekend. I graciously accept and wish them all a pleasant evening. Once they depart, Mark and I settle our bill and rush back to meet Marty. I'm a bit hesitant here because I'm not entirely sure what Evelyn's intentions were. I had half expected that she might have already booked a hotel room and was heading there, which would have complicated things and limited my options. However, it seems that tonight was initially planned as just drinks at the bar until Marty decided to spend the night at his parents', and that's when things took a different turn. Evelyn made a beeline for home, and we discreetly followed her, parking down the street. Shortly after, another car pulled into Marty's driveway, and we saw Jake get out, go up to the door, knock, and be greeted by Evelyn. They went inside together. At this point, it's around 7:30, and I have my own plans for the evening. As a friend, I feel like I've done all I can for Marty, and he should handle the rest himself. I do feel sorry for him, but I don't want to get further involved in this drama. Being Marty's wingman as he confronts his cheating wife is too much for me given my own situation. Marty assures me that he can handle it on his own. Seems he's more of a man than Evelyn thought. He retrieves my gear from Evelyn's car, and we say our goodbyes. That was almost 2 hours ago. I received a text from Marty confirming that he was heading to his parents' house, and since then, my phone has been quiet. I'm not sure what's happening with Evelyn, but I've been at Mark's place since then. It seems like my involvement in Marty's situation has come to an end. If Marty heeded my advice, he might have recorded the events on his phone. I'll have to find out later. Right now, my main priority is to go home and have a difficult conversation with Sarah about calling off the wedding. I anticipate that she will take it very hard, but I can't proceed with the marriage at this time. The future of our relationship is uncertain, but one thing is clear: we won't be getting married anytime soon. For those who question why I didn't talk to Sarah first or confront her about the situation, I have to say it's not that simple. She blatantly lied to her brother-in-law, someone she's known for years and respects as a great husband and father. It's disorienting and unsettling to have your entire perception of someone change in an instant. I've never had reason to doubt Sarah before, but her deception was shocking. I followed my instincts instead of confronting her right away, and it led me to the truth. It would have been easy for her to lie and delete the evidence, leaving me unaware of her deceitful behavior. I'm heading home to speak with Sarah, and I'll provide an update later on the outcome. Unfortunately, it's unlikely to be positive. Edit 8. Yesterday, I had a difficult conversation with Sarah, and it was quite intense. I'm feeling completely drained and exhausted, despite taking a sick day and sleeping in until almost 11 a.m. The lack of sleep is catching up with me. I know everyone is eager for updates, and although writing them is therapeutic for me, I'm simply too drained to provide a detailed account at the moment. I promise to do so later. In short, I returned home to discuss canceling the wedding with Sarah, only to find her consoling Evelyn on the couch. Emotions ran high, words were exchanged, tears were shed, and things escalated to the point where the police were called. Afterward, I collapsed and slept for 10 hours. My phone is inundated with unread messages and missed calls. If it vibrates again, I might consider charging people to sit on it. There's a lot to do today. While my family is already aware of the situation, I need to reach out to some friends and take care of other matters. I'll respond to a few messages and then take some time to focus on my tasks. Firstly, I want to clarify that I am not James Bond. Instead, I am the person who discreetly accompanies a disabled construction worker to his Zumba class or skydiving lesson. I've been doing this for approximately 5 years and have become quite adept at it. My methods have been relatively simple, involving a $50 GPS device from Amazon and a bit of social engineering. You'd be surprised at how effective social engineering can be, but that's beside the point. Secondly, I am officially stepping back from the enigmatic case of Marty and the Hobag Hobgoblin. Whatever actions Marty takes with the information he possesses, including reaching out to the other wife, are entirely his responsibility. While Marty is a good friend, I have my own personal challenges to contend with, and without the distraction of moral outrage, these challenges are proving to be more burdensome than I've let on. Thirdly, despite not being an aspiring screenwriter or novelist, I spend a significant portion of my time writing reports. Most of my days are spent hunched over a laptop, diligently crafting reports or transcribing statements. For every hour of fieldwork, I dedicate around 10 hours to paperwork and research. Fourthly, I acknowledge that I erred in leaving Marty to handle the situation alone. It wasn't due to any fear that Marty would make a reckless decision. Rather, it was a failure on my part to adequately assess the potential risks to him. I recognize this as a personal shortcoming and am actively working to address it. However, given my current emotional state, my emotional intelligence was compromised in that situation. Finally, I want to address the speculation regarding Marty's character and actions. Contrary to what others may assume, I possess intimate knowledge of the situation, having read 6 months' worth of text messages. This has significantly influenced my recent behavior. While I am choosing not to divulge the details due to their unsavory nature, rest assured that my actions have been informed by this knowledge. In conclusion, I may provide an update on the fallout in the coming days, but anticipate being less active on Reddit for the time being. I extend my gratitude to those who have supported me. Their encouragement has been invaluable in maintaining some semblance of sanity during this challenging period. Interesting update. To begin with, I departed from Mark's house late that evening. Sarah was already aware that I had been out discussing business with him, although she was unaware that the business in question pertained to her sister's affair. Nevertheless, it was growing late, primarily because I was mustering the courage to return home and confront her. After receiving 2 or 3 pep talks from Mark, I finally roused myself and texted Sarah to inform her of my impending return before departing in my car. As previously mentioned, I was taken aback upon my arrival, as Evelyn was in tears on the couch with Sarah. I had not observed Evelyn's car in the driveway when I arrived home, so this was the last thing I had anticipated. I hesitated for a moment and almost turned away. This was not the scenario I had envisioned, and I knew that Evelyn's presence would exacerbate an already difficult situation. Nevertheless, I was working on a timeline. I needed to inform friends, cancel wedding preparations, and the clock was ticking in the back of my mind. When I entered the room, both Sarah and Evelyn acknowledged my presence but refrained from launching into a tirade of accusations. I simply gazed back at them, raising my eyebrows in inquiry. The moment passed, and Evelyn resumed crying, Sarah resumed comforting her, and I allowed the awkwardness to linger for half a minute while I contemplated. It appeared that Marty had not disclosed my involvement in uncovering Evelyn's affair. I chose to feign ignorance, not for any particular reason other than to gauge Sarah's reaction. I settled into a recliner, set down my laptop bag, and retrieved my phone from my pocket. Pretending to fiddle with it, I asked them, "What's going on?" Evelyn continued to cry, but Sarah looked at me and stated, "Marty is divorcing Evie." Well, that came as no surprise. I decided to proceed with the obvious question. "Why?" I inquired. Sarah paused in her comforting gesture towards Evelyn and turned to me. I could see a fleeting expression of disbelief cross her face, the kind of look a child gives when forced to eat their vegetables. Evelyn shot Sarah a glance that spoke volumes, conveying a message that needed no words. A tense silence hung in the air until Sarah finally broke it with a bombshell. She cheated on him. I was taken aback by this revelation. It was not at all what I had anticipated. Some might argue that the truth was already out, but Sarah could have easily skirted around the issue or worded it differently. However, her blunt confirmation left me stunned. My job requires me to not only listen to what people say, but also how they say it, and Sarah's delivery did not sit well with me. Evelyn's reaction was palpable. She slumped into the couch and emitted a mixture of a sigh and a sob. I wanted to delve deeper into the matter, but my words stumbled. Sarah must have interpreted my hesitation as shock, which wasn't entirely inaccurate. "Did you know?" I asked. Sarah simply nodded, her hand still soothing her sister's shoulder. Without hesitation, I asked the next obvious question. "How long?" The response came more easily than I had expected. 6 months. I was shocked by how easily she admitted to it. Evelyn was shocked as well. She smacked her sister's hand off her, and I think even Sarah was a little shocked at saying it out loud. I leaned back in the recliner and rubbed my face. Time to tug the rest of that Band-Aid clear off. "We're not getting married." There were 2 looks like stunned goats and a chorus of "Huh? What?" from both sisters. I stood up and repeated myself. "We're not getting married. I can't marry someone who would cover up adultery, especially not for 6 months." Sarah sprang off the couch and opened her arms. The body language was, "You can't be serious?" But I just put my hands in front of myself. "I'm serious. I don't like this, not one bit. I don't like that you took part in this, and I can't get married to you with how I feel. It would be a mistake." There were wails from Sarah, accusations of not loving her, appeals to my sense of duty, to the loss of money, the inconvenience to all our friends, the embarrassment of it all. It was frankly nothing I hadn't already thought about, but it definitely felt different hearing Sarah say it through body-racking sobs. It was at this point I probably made a big mistake. Well, maybe not, because I have no idea how long Marty would have kept my involvement in everything off the books. But in an effort to convince Sarah of the finality of it all, I said, "Look, I already canceled the honeymoon. It's not happening." I knew it was a bomb the second it left my mouth, and the explosion was damn near immediate. Evelyn, to her credit, had always been pretty quick on the uptake, which is probably how she had managed to fool her husband for so long. I could almost see the realization dawning on her when she put it all together with my appearance at the bar earlier in the evening. Evelyn let out a piercing scream, "You son of a bitch," and lunged across the room at me. Despite my average build, her force was overwhelming, and I staggered backward, barely managing to raise my hands as she clawed at my face with her fingernails. I struggled to keep hold of the phone in my hand while pushing her away, shouting, "Evelyn, get off me. Sarah, get your sister under control." Surprisingly, Sarah responded to my plea and wrapped her arms around Evelyn, restraining her. I sternly warned Evelyn to leave or face the police, brandishing my phone for emphasis. Sarah explained that Evelyn had no means of leaving as Marty had taken her car keys. Despite this revelation, I was resolute in my decision. I stormed into my home office, locking the door behind me, and called the authorities, reporting the attack and my injuries. As I was concluding the call, Sarah knocked on the door, pleading for me to come out and discuss the situation. She expressed her love for me and insisted that Evelyn wanted to apologize. However, I remained silent, unswayed by her appeals. The arrival of the police brought a halt to Sarah's efforts. I could hear her conversing with them as I decided to leave the office and face the situation head-on. The police officers arrived, and I noticed that one of them seemed younger than me, possibly around Sarah's age, while the other appeared older and more jaded. I introduced myself and pointed at Evelyn, explaining that she had attacked me and offering to show the officers the recording I had made. The younger officer asked if I wanted to press charges, to which I firmly replied in the affirmative. He seemed taken aback and asked again, to which I responded with another resolute yes. At this point, both officers exchanged a glance, and before the younger one could speak again, I asserted, "Yes, I want to press charges. I have video evidence, and this is going to court, or else I'm going to call your boss." I mentioned his name and asked him to come down and handle it himself. I could sense their surprise at my knowledge of their superior's name, stemming from my regular interactions with local law enforcement due to my line of work. Despite my growing frustration, I was unwavering in my stance. While I might not be in critical condition, the fact remained that Evelyn had assaulted me in my own home, and I was determined to see her removed. Thankfully, the situation did not immediately escalate, and the officers handcuffed Evelyn and placed her in the back of the patrol car. Throughout this process, she was shrieking and crying uncontrollably. Sarah was equally distressed, repeatedly pleading, "No, please, no." As the younger officer circled back to check on us, he inquired if everything was okay. I curtly informed them that I was retiring for the night. When he pressed Sarah for a response and she hesitated, he raised his voice, insisting, "Is everything okay here, ma'am?" It was evident what he was insinuating. At this point, my disdain for the officer grew, but I held my tongue. Sarah eventually realized that he was addressing her and nodded in response. However, the officer was not satisfied and began to question her again. I interjected, suggesting that if he intended to pursue further inquiries, he might want to conduct them outside where my doorbell camera wasn't capturing his actions. By this point, I had likely pushed my luck with this man one too many times, but I felt somewhat trapped. I estimate that I was about 30 seconds away from being handcuffed until his partner intervened and pulled him away. The older officer, probably in his late 50s, seemed reluctant to process 2 arrests right at the beginning of his shift, especially when one of them was clearly going to be more trouble than it was worth. I'm fairly certain he talked him out of it, and they left, taking Evelyn with them, hopefully out of my life forever. At this juncture, I contemplated whether to stay here or not. The fact that my parents lived a couple of hours away, combined with the thought of how financially strained I would be in the short term, ruled out staying at either their place or a hotel. Consequently, I decided to sleep in the guest room. Sarah made some futile attempts to engage me in conversation or to persuade me to sleep in our bed, but I told her we'd talk tomorrow and that I was tired and didn't want to be disturbed. Thankfully, she let me be, and I fell into a deep sleep, harder than I had in years, bringing us up to speed with the last update. The next day turned out to be the most bizarre day of my life. To begin with, I woke up at 11 a.m. Sarah was still home, and she had cleaned the house from top to bottom. The floors sparkled, the toilets shined, she had clearly been busy. When she saw me, she hovered out of immediate range, not quite engaging, but looking like she wanted to say something. I understood. Last night was traumatic for everyone, and she was probably uncertain. Did I just cancel the wedding in the heat of the moment? Was I serious about this? Was I really angry? I took a deep breath and told her we needed to finish talking. She tried to sit next to me on the couch, and though I thought about rebuffing her, I didn't. We were not getting married, but I didn't need to act like I hated her because truthfully, I didn't. I was disappointed in her, decently disgusted by some of the things I had read in her text exchanges with her sister, but we were both hurting here, and I didn't want to make it any worse or escalate things further. It took a considerable amount of effort on my part to help Sarah come to terms with the fact that the wedding was off. She was clearly devastated, to put it mildly. I could see her struggling to keep herself composed, and I think she may have even hyperventilated a few times. While I was handling the situation with more composure, it was my decision after all, and I had had more time to process it. Finally, she posed the question that had been hanging in the air. What about us? I knew I would face criticism for this from many, especially those who believe that any misstep in a relationship is reason enough to end it. Some might even say that calling off the wedding was akin to dropping a bomb on our 6-year relationship. But the truth was, in that moment, I didn't have an answer for Sarah. I simply didn't know, and I told her so. I explained to her that after reading her text messages, I had seen a side of her that I hadn't known existed, and it left me uncertain about her and our relationship. I couldn't comprehend why she would condone Evelyn's disrespectful behavior towards Marty and even encourage her in cheating on him and their daughter. She kept repeating, I know, it was wrong, but when I asked for an explanation, she couldn't provide one. She just said that she got carried away and that she had to choose her sister. I expressed my belief that a good sister would keep you on the right path and not give you a free pass to act poorly. She agreed with me and promised to do better, but she mentioned that Evelyn had always been the dominant one while she had been the follower since they were children. I could relate to this, having an older sibling myself, although I had been more independent and had spent the last 18 years living on the other side of the planet from him, visiting only occasionally during Thanksgiving or Christmas. But perhaps I had an advantage over Sarah because my older sibling was a decent person, whereas Evelyn was not. And then came the second major shock of my life within 48 hours. Sarah expressed her frustration to me, exclaiming, "It's not fair. It's not fair." I was taken aback and asked her to clarify. She brought up a situation from last year where she had discovered messages between me and someone named Mandy on Instagram. She was deeply hurt but had chosen to forgive me, and now she couldn't understand why I couldn't do the same for her. I was perplexed, as I had no recollection of any such interactions with a person named Mandy and felt accused unfairly. I asked if she was feeling all right or if she was under stress, albeit not in the most tactful manner. Sarah continued to express her distress, claiming that she had seen the messages on my social media accounts and had refrained from confronting me at the time because she thought I had ceased communication with this person. This revelation was shocking to me, as my social media contacts were limited to family and a few work acquaintances. I offered to let her inspect my accounts to verify my innocence, but she dismissed my offer, hurling accusations and insults at me. The situation escalated, and objects were thrown as emotions ran high. In response, I warned her that I would have her removed from the house if she continued. Sarah stormed off to the master bedroom, leaving me bewildered and in need of clarity. I retreated to my office and conducted an online search for Bimbo Wife Mandy, which led me to various social media platforms, including an OnlyFans account. As I delved further, I discovered that this individual was from Australia, prompting a realization. During his visit last Christmas, my brother had utilized my office computer after his family had gone to bed due to jet lag. It appeared that he had been engaging in inappropriate interactions with this person, which left me feeling deeply disappointed in him. Despite my desire to confront him, it was not feasible at that hour, leaving me grappling with a multitude of emotions. I found myself questioning the world we live in and attempting to reconcile Sarah's actions with those of my brother, ultimately feeling let down by everyone involved. I pondered whether Sarah's decision not to confront me about her discovery was an act of tolerance or forgiveness, and wished she had given me the chance to explain my perspective on such matters directly. This post has turned into quite a lengthy narrative, and I've spent most of the morning getting these thoughts out of my head and onto the page instead of working. It feels good to express it, but there are probably 2 to 3 more posts left to share. I won't be posting them to the subreddit anymore. I'm not sure if they'd allow it. However, I plan to quietly update my profile in the next day or 2 with the rest of the story, discussing conversations with my brother, my parents, Sarah's parents, and finally where Sarah and I stand. One thing that stands out is that most of my immediate family relationships are incredibly strained for various reasons. While my parents have been largely supportive, their backing is waning as the reality of the financial loss sets in. Yes, the marriage is still off, which was pretty much a certainty from the beginning. Sarah's parents are understandably upset, and I'm sure they are feeling quite hostile towards me at the moment. For those wondering, Evelyn is no longer in jail. Sarah bailed her out. I even confronted Sarah about it, calling her her sister's underling, which seemed to resonate with her. She wrote me a lengthy letter about how her sister always bossed her around throughout their entire childhood. I've read it twice now, and I wish we had discussed this at any point in the last 6 years. Maybe things would be different. It's hard to say. Update. Sorry this update took so long to get around to, but to be blunt, after the chaos that happened initially started to die down and my state of hypervigilance started to dwindle, I found myself sinking into a deep depressive funk that sapped most of my will to do almost anything, and recounting the shit show that is my life became really, really unappealing. However, the date for the wedding has now come and gone, and I'm on vacation with my siblings and my brother's family and starting to really feel like most of this is behind me. So anyway, onto the updates. First off, since this is the thing that seems to really bother people, my brother and his wife are doing fine. Like I said in my last post, I urge my brother to tell Karen about his, well, what do I call this? Sexting? With the Australian of girl known as Bimbo Wife Mandy, whom, by the way, is a very lovely person. I sort of hinted in my last update that I had gotten confirmation from Mandy to back up my brother's story, and according to her, the timelines matched up, and not only that, but his account no longer exists. Now, she could be lying to me to protect a customer, but I don't think that's the case, and she seemed like a genuine person. My brother confided in me about what happened during one of his marriage counseling sessions, and he shared that his wife took the news well and is moving forward. I did have a private conversation with her to ensure that she was truly okay with it, and she assured me that they are not perfect and both watch porn, so she sees this as a minor issue. When I asked her how she would feel if he had visited a prostitute, she said it would be different, but he didn't, so that's their boundary. It's not the same as mine or what some people on Reddit believe, but based on what I heard from their hotel room, it seems their intimacy issues are resolved. They are currently in a situation where they are taking advantage of the circumstances. They swapped rooms with my sister and left the kids with her for a sleepover while they have babysitters to enjoy some alone time. I believe I made the right decision by giving my brother space to resolve this issue on his own, despite criticism. I strongly believe that my brother's situation and Evelyn's situation are like night and day. Cybering with a professional sex worker is not comparable to carrying on an affair, and my approach to the situation is vastly different from Sarah's, who not only hid the affair from her partner but also spoke negatively about him. I am confident in my decision, and those who disagree can do as they please. Moving on, the wedding itself was quite a financial hit for Sarah and me, as well as our families, but we anticipated that. I negotiated with the caterer for a larger refund or the food itself, and we ended up with a surplus of frozen steak, chicken, and fish, which my parents are distributing. Additionally, gifts from distant relatives are at our house until we can return them. Ultimately, the wedding date has passed, and for the sake of our sanity, Sarah and I spent it apart. Regarding Marty and Evelyn's situation, it seems that their issues won't be resolved anytime soon. Marty is set on divorcing Evelyn, but she is making it challenging by pleading with him to reconsider. With school starting again, Marty will be back to teaching, which is difficult for him as he used to spend every day with his daughter. He finds this change particularly tough as it was beneficial for his mental well-being. Despite the fact that Marty could potentially cause trouble for Evelyn at her workplace due to their affair during work trips, he has chosen not to take any action. He also hasn't informed Jake's wife about the affair, a decision I strongly disagree with. When I confronted him about this, he simply said that he is in no rush, as he has evidence such as text messages, photos from the pub, and a video from when he entered the house. He has the power to expose this man at any time he chooses. It seems that Marty, the laid-back, Birkenstock-wearing teacher, is finding some satisfaction in watching this man squirm. Perhaps he's also enjoying making Evelyn realize her place in the world, just a side piece to a married man. Marty has definitely taken a darker turn through all of this, and it's not entirely unwarranted. My knowledge of Evelyn is mostly from Sarah, but as I understand it, she's living a somewhat sheltered life, going to work and then straight back to her parents' house every day, almost like a teenager with a curfew. Her parents don't seem pleased with either of their daughters at the moment, but despite the very public fallout of Sarah and my wedding, it seems to be overshadowed by the constant drama of Evelyn's impending divorce. According to Sarah, it almost feels like they've forgotten about her now that they realize Marty is serious about divorcing Evelyn and are worried about their access to their granddaughter. I can see how their anger towards Evelyn is amplified by the fact that their grandchild will essentially be cut off from them. Now, onto the main event, Sarah and me. This update is unlikely to please anyone, not those who wanted me to cut her out of my life nor those who urged me to show her compassion for her obvious mental issues. Aside from the lying and hiding of the affair, what shook me the most was the way she interacted with her sister in those text messages. I could share them to help people understand, but I refuse to repeat them or engage in arguments over their content. Suffice it to say, they made me reconsider Sarah's character. I'm still in the process of coming to terms with it all. We're not together in the way we were as an engaged couple, but we haven't completely closed the door on our relationship either. I've gained a deeper understanding of who Sarah really is and which parts of her are genuine and which are a facade constructed to win people over, including her sister. Understanding her people-pleasing behavior has been a crucial step in comprehending her actions. Delving into the root of this behavior, particularly how it originated within her family dynamics, has shed light on her struggles. It's encouraging that she's actively seeking help for it. Despite the repugnance and impropriety of her actions, I must acknowledge how she handled the situation when I unexpectedly found her and Evelyn on our couch. She didn't lie, downplay, or evade responsibility. She owned up to her actions, even though she was unaware that I had seen her text messages with Evelyn. She could have easily concealed her involvement or minimized it, but she chose to be forthright, even when it portrayed her in a negative light. This integrity means a great deal to me, prompting me to consider a change of direction rather than closing the chapter completely. To clarify, this isn't a triumph for those advocating forgiveness and placing blame solely on our sister. I haven't forgiven her, and our circumstances have significantly shifted. Sarah has moved back to her parents' house, similar to Evelyn, although Sarah plans to leave in a few weeks due to the adverse impact on her mental health and ability to address her issues. I am reimbursing her equity in the house through regular installments from my earnings until we are fully settled, which will assist her in covering the expenses of securing her own apartment. We are unequivocally not together at this time. Initially, Sarah was resistant to accepting this new reality, and I can empathize with her perspective. However, if she truly grapples with emotional challenges as it seems, I believe that pressing the issue could motivate her to seek genuine assistance rather than simply forgiving her, which would amount to sweeping everything under the rug and spell disaster for our relationship in the long run. I genuinely wish she had confided in me earlier before this situation unraveled. I would have much preferred to address these issues as a supportive partner. Unfortunately, she didn't afford me that opportunity. Therefore, this is the best course of action for now. At the moment, my approach to the situation with Sarah is one of cautious observation. It's possible that either one of us, or both, will reach a point of exhaustion and decide to move on completely. If that happens, it's likely to be me. However, I'm not interested in complicating my life further by getting involved with another woman right now. So, it seems that we are facing a period of several months until we reach a clear resolution on this matter, and I'm actually okay with that. Not everything needs to move forward at a frantic pace. When I consider my current circumstances, I'm financially independent, we are living separately, and I'm maintaining a skeptical but open-minded outlook on the whole situation. I'm being realistic with myself. If at any point I feel that Sarah's issues are insurmountable or that rebuilding trust between us is impossible, then I will walk away. I have no desire to prolong a situation that seems hopeless. However, I don't believe it's hopeless. I acknowledge that it will be challenging, and I'm willing to wait and see how things unfold. I've even decided to seek counseling to help me process recent events and examine how Sarah and I have interacted with each other. I recognize that while I may have been misled by her, there was also a degree of willingness on my part to be deceived, because who wouldn't appreciate a partner who always agrees, shares their interests, and prioritizes their happiness over their own? The question that troubles me, and perhaps Sarah as well, is how much of her behavior stems from genuine love for me and how much is driven by an ingrained need to please others, rooted in her fear of rejection and anxiety. Perhaps when we reach the bottom of that question without giving up, we'll have the answer to the future of Sarah and my relationship. Did you like the story? Subscribe